So there's a real question mark over the procedure, and yet the National Audit Office could do nothing about this. They responded to me by saying that it was not in their remit to look into TfL behaviour, but it should be the GLA Oversight Committee, supported by locally appointed auditors. Well, Ernst & Young are the locally appointed auditors for the GLA. They were also appointed to run the investigation by the Mayor into TfL. Yet Ernst & Young, believe it or not, are listed as donating £500,000 to the bridge, as well as the fact that an Ernst & Young partner sits on the board of the Garden Bridge Trust. The GLA Oversight did indeed look into this, and its chair described it as a dodgy design procurement process and suggested that TfL reimburse the two other applicants, Wilkinson's Eye and Mark's Barfield. I think that the National Audit Office should be able to investigate public money used by TfL, but I'm glad that they have agreed to look into the £30 million given by the former Chancellor of the Exchequer via the Department of Transport and how it has exercised control over the money. Now, the model under which the Garden Bridge Trust operates sets a dangerous precedent, and that's why this should be of interest to all members. It sets a dangerous precedent that allows public bodies to effectively offshore major infrastructure projects by leveraging charitable vehicles under the oversight of the Charity Commission to avoid the transparency and scrutiny preserved for governmental bodies via the NAO. The House will be interested to know that since July 2015, £26,720,292 has been paid to the Garden Bridge Trust with absolutely no accountability of how it has been spent and no visibility of their accounts. The current Mayor stated when he came in that £37.7 million has already been spent by the Trust, but, and I quote, nothing has been achieved to date. But more recently on LBC, he stated the figure was now £42 million, yet he himself had stated that he didn't want a penny more of public money. So it would be interesting to know, since he came in and now, why there's been another £5 million, £6 million spent. Recently, Lord Davies, the chair of the Garden Bridge Trust, stated on Newsnight that a significant amount of spend had been on two contractors, Arup and Bougues. I think I've got the pronunciation right. Bougues. It is a French company, and there is slightly variations in how you pronounce it. No visibility has ever been provided over these contractual arrangements or legal clarity provided as to whether there are clauses to return public money in the event that the project is cancelled. I believe contracts should not have been entered into until the land arrangements on both sides of the river had been secured, as it does expose taxpayers' funds to risk. The land deal still has to be negotiated, and Coin Street community builders who hold the long lease from Lambeth are not happy with terms of agreement even now, and a judicial review has been filed, and that money for that has been raised by little small donations across London. Quite suddenly, just a few weeks ago, the Garden Bridge Trust changed its dates for filing its accounts, which were due on July the 31st to December the 31st, and again I think this lack of transparency is very, very worrying. So this is a project not just at risk of never happening, but at risk of being a colossal white elephant. And it's depicted very nicely in a cartoon, I think, in Private Eye this week, the big white elephant over the Thames. We now know, it's been admitted by Lord Davis again on Newsnight, that it's going to cost £10 million more, up to £185 million, and will be further delayed by a year, even if they get what they want. It now has to raise between 52 and 56 million just to build the bridge. I thank the honourable gentleman for that, and I'm glad that he has genuinely come with an open mind on this issue. Yes, that, and I will mention it later, that is one of the most dreadful things that may not seem important. It's one of those things that once it's missed, we will realise it, and the views from Waterloo Bridge of the wonderful view of St Paul's will be ruined, absolutely without a doubt, if the Garden Bridge is built. I also find it difficult to understand that this new government is giving money and underwriting a project for a charity whose donors and backers too often remain unidentified. The public don't discriminate on from which pot of money funds come, because to them it's all public money. But we have this list of donors, breakdown of funding to date, August 2016, and it's remarkable how many of them are anonymous, anonymous this, anonymous that. Why do they want to be anonymous? Now, obviously, some people may decide they want to be, but also there's some that I think is very strange, where confidential until launch announcement, 12.6 million. Well, is that real money, or is it a pledge from somebody? It's all sort of smokes and mirrors. And I'll say something more about donors in a moment. So because of that, and the way the trust itself and the way their accounts have gone, that's why I welcome the fact that the Charity Commission is now investigating into the trust and have put that in writing to me. Just a quick word on the business plan, which has been so admirably gone into in great detail, the operation viability of the Garden Bridge, a review of it by Dan Anderson, who's a director of 4th Street. Some of the members will know 4th Street. They've done some great work for the National Trust and for other public bodies. And they've looked at their business plan and gone through it detail by detail and pointed out all the flaws. And I really would recommend its reading by anyone who's interested in getting more understanding. One crucial point from that 4.2, where they quote, he says, "It is worryingly worth noting that the Garden Bridge Trust has a perverse incentive to spend money as quickly as possible and not as efficiently or cost effectively as possible. That is, the Trust has a powerful incentive to ensure that it reaches a point of no return in financial terms as quickly as it can, so that planning, land acquisition and/or legal challenges do not ultimately thwart the project." And I think that must be a very large part of the explanation as to how such an extraordinary sum of money could have been spent before construction has even started. Others too, I think, apart from the government, TfL and City Hall, need to examine their behaviour on this project. There's been a cosy little cartel working, with everyone blaming everyone else. At Lambeth Council, the almost zealous support which has been given to the Garden Bridge Trust is disturbing. The Chief Executive attending meetings with the Mayor's Head of Staff, David Bellamy, the Garden Bridge Trust. Lambeth Council leadership has never allowed a proper, full debate in Council and a vote, and have ignored the local councillors' views. Lambeth officers and members have proceeded over 3 years without any policy basis. Their transport plan doesn't even mention the Garden Bridge. There's been no policy paper from Lambeth on why the council should support the Garden Bridge. Lambeth could stop this project tomorrow if they wished. Coin Street Community Builders, of whom I'm a huge supporter, should have said no from the beginning to the change in the land lease. They could stop this tomorrow if they wished. The Mayor of London, coming in new to this, should have put a stop to it, or at least consulted local politicians. It's just not good enough for him to say, so much money has been spent, we must carry on. He could stop it tomorrow if he wished. Who is going to pay, Minister, could you confirm who's going to pay the £3 million running costs? Can the Minister confirm it will not be the taxpayer, and that there will be categorically no more public funding on the bridge? Will Lord Ahmed, who's agreed just recently, having stalled everybody, none of the people who objected to the Garden Bridge could get in to see anybody in power other than the Garden Bridge Trust seemed to have been able to get in at whenever they wished. Lord Ahmed has now written to Councillor Craig saying that he will meet the local councillors, and I would ask that he come and actually look at the site and talk to those people who really know what the area is like and the problems. You know, as I talk privately to many of those currently involved in all these different areas of projects, part of it, there is huge unease. I know there is unease in the Department of Transport. I know there is unease in Lambeth. I know there is unease in Coin Street. I know that most of them, probably with the exception of the previous Chancellor, would like the bridge to stop. But no one wants to be the one that will be fingered as responsible for actually being blamed for saying no. So I would appeal actually to all those potential donors to really examine whether this project is one that they want to be associated with. I do believe the reputation of many of them will be damaged by their support for this folly. As the critique of the business plan states, the Garden Bridge has to be loved as much by the public as it is by its creators, or the business model fails. Given how unpopular it is and how much has been exposed by FOI requests, I have to say, if I was a trustee of a body thinking of donating to the GBT, I would be thinking again. And it is ironic that this may be the only way we may now be saved from this complete waste of public money, even more to be wasted as time goes on, and a deeply flawed project which will ruin the most wonderful views, as I've said earlier, of St Paul's from Waterloo Bridge, as well as make the congestion on the South Bank, which is already at dangerous levels on some weekends, much worse. It is the charitable trusts, by the charitable trusts and private donors now stopping their support and looking elsewhere for their projects, more in keeping with their objects to support. That is what I would like to see happen. You know, this has been put forward as a wonderful new tourist attraction for London. It is a tourist attraction, but it's been dressed up as tourist infrastructure. It's been dressed up to get government support when other brilliant tourist attractions in London have done it by private money. It is an inappropriate use of taxpayers' money, and worse, it was promised from the beginning that it wouldn't be. And I think we do have to ask the question, who has sold us down the river, and how can we ensure that the damage being done already, the public money that's being spent, that no more will be wasted, and this Garden Bridge Trust project should be stopped by someone. And I would like to see you hear the Minister say that he will do his utmost to make sure that not a penny more will be spent, and indeed that we will find ways, when this project fails, as I believe it will, that we get that public money back.
Yeah.